Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I am your ever-loving host, Shorty. And today we're going to take a look at Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo. DC Comics 1, obviously, Batman and the Joker, and it's Mark Silvestri. It's all Mark Silvestri, since he's both a writer and artist, but we're going to take on the art first. Silvestri has got quite a distinctive style, and this could be the reason you give this one a shot or leave it on the rack, really. Now, I happen to quite like his style, and I'd like to think that even if it wasn't to your taste, you could at least admit he's damn good at what he does. And one of the things he does really well is his line work and inking for shading, without ever just relying on cross-hatching. Also, he doesn't really use thick brushes or thick pen for the inking, it's just like a whole bunch of very fine lines. All of it built up around the darker areas of depth and shading. Some might say this is a job best left to a colourist, and in this book, it's Arif Prianto, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, who is tasked with that job, and thankfully, with some of the work done for him, we get to watch him being pretty playful with the colours. Particularly impressive is the glow he shows radiating off street lamps, cop car light bars, creepy-ass glowing eyes. Also, throw in some huge explosions, bullet impacts, following muzzle flares, and the Joker looking all cool as hell as lightning flashes behind him, and you do get a sense that the colour is used to brighten otherwise dark and shadowy Gotham City. It is worth pointing out, though, that Silvestri's shading doesn't really add to the darkness, in ways that I'm used to, at least. It's nowhere near as black as I was expecting. He has a surprisingly light hand when it comes to this, and the added depth is subtle, and instead of making the city seem more dark and murky like you'd expect for Gotham City, instead it gives it a really filthy and grimy look. Each line he draws seems to be wear and distress on everything that the city and the people within it are living with, and they've been doing so for so long that they're totally used to it. Graffiti does look slathered on in anger and frustration rather than neat, bold lines like an artistic statement. Actually, this thought does lead me down another path. Along with all the line work, there's also just buckets of extra detail. Background scenes, particularly of the city, will still have perfectly lined up perspectives. The Gotham architecture is on brilliant display. Sometimes there's so much extra detail it can be a bit distracting. In the middle of an action scene, of which there are a couple, you don't want your reader drifting too far away from the focus, and if you spent the requisite amount of time to make sure every window in the background has the correct amount of leading in the panes, you might be mistaken for thinking that the distraction is the point. The thing is, though, the scenes do flow and the detail feels more like a bonus feature. A cup of coffee is spilled in an excellent moment in panic and fear, and the second of action is caught with the coffee in the air, like captured mid-motion. Sorry for the beeping. It looks for all the world like it was moving just before you noticed it was there. It's really, really well done. But, as I say, it was the graffiti that got me to this thought, and it's a very specific piece of vandalism. On the side of a dumpster, partially covered with refuse, is the line "Clark Kent is Superman." It made me smile. Partly I liked it, because on my first perusal of the page, I didn't even notice it. I was focused on the action, and it's only because I'd realised at previous pages that there was this kind of detailing. I'd gone back to look for it, and it was really nice, and I got, like, a little reward. I'm very happy with that. It did make me think, though, because of current continuity, we all already know that Clark Kent is all blue undies. Bendis is responsible for that one. You can blame him if you like, but I quite enjoy it. And since then, the character has been interesting. And with Tom Taylor taking over his kid, we've basically had him not having to hide who he was, and that's made for really good writing as well. It's been far more nuanced and interesting than I think it would have been without this bit of information. For this Batman story, though, it reminded me of dealing with the point outside of the main thread in terms of time. We know this because in the very first scene, we get to see Harley Quinn, who's being kidnapped and is being kept in the bottom of a well. It's giving off total Silence of the Lamb vibes, but while down there she professes faith that her pudding will in fact come and rescue her, and there will be quite a lot of making out. So we know this is before the current story arc in terms of where Batman is at the moment. Even got Alfred turning up, still being fully alive, so we know this is in the past. And this sent me on a bit of a spiral thought process. I was happy to have noticed the graffiti, and the fact that I know it was like the time frame was out of whack, it was kind of a nice little treat to see it. But I was like, well, would anyone else get that if they're paying attention? If they saw that, would they be aware that Harley Quinn is now left Joker and she's with Poison Ivy? Would they be aware that Alfred's dead? I mean, does it really matter? Are these important things? Is it just okay that I liked it for what I saw? Is that okay? Would it be a waste of time? Is it necessary to appease the hardcore fans? And I went round and round in circles and circles, and in the end I just realised, why not just enjoy it for what it is? Like I've said before, just review the comic book in front of you, and it is good. Now, I've said a lot of stuff there which I've liked, mostly, eventually. But I'm going to chuck the basic writing on the same pile of all this as well. There's some really nice bits of character building, the dialogue, and even some humour. Some of the Joker writing does feel a little bit predictable, though, and it's when you get to the Joker that this stops being a massive barrel of fun. He's a hugely popular character. He gets used a lot by a bunch of creators, and I'm sure they all hope they're going to be the ones to write the definitive version of this character in a story that'll be in print for decades. There'll be special editions, pages of back matter, and people will write think pieces about it. Unfortunately, I don't think this is it. It's a bit of crime fiction at heart, a murder mystery involving basically finding the weapon fairly quickly, but not knowing who's wielding it, and that being the puzzle. And this is really good because you've got the Dark Detective Batman's figuring it out. But I think Joker's just going to add some chaos to the mix in ways that will probably end up annoying me by the end of it. And yes, he had some funny lines, and I think it makes sense within this confines of the story that he would want to be involved. I'm not going to tell you exactly why, because that would be a spoiler. You have to go and read it yourself. But I'm not entirely sure he's going to make the story any better. I think he might actually make it worse, and it's a shame, because I am going to check out the rest of it, because I really like the artwork. And I'd like to think if anyone does pick it up, they'll find a reason to like it as well, and maybe give it a go. That's it from me for now, though. I'll be back tomorrow with another review. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!